I think in general, the aliens have landed. And I think anyone who is not aware of the dramatic shift that is currently happening is just completely missing the ball. So everything that we do today is going to be completely disrupted by these new technologies that are coming in.
Welcome back to Building Blocks. I'm Yotam, I'm the co-founder and CEO at Daisy. One of the aspects of having a healthy building is actually having the right insurance. Today we have an exciting company, Lemonade, who is disrupting completely from the ground up the way insurance is built. I'm very excited to have Maya Prosor. She is the Chief Business Officer and a founding team member of Lemonade. And by the way, she's also my sister.
It's very hard to get me on the show. So I had to pull a lot of strings.
So thank you
But I'm
very
here.
much for joining us
My pleasure.
for this amazing episode.
Thank you for having me.
And maybe you can start by just explaining to everyone what Lemonade does and maybe how you guys started this.
Of course. I'll start by saying that Lemonade is, as you said, is a groundbreaking insurance company that offers renters, homeowners, car insurance, pet insurance, and life insurance in the United States as well as in Europe. And really the concept of Lemonade has two parts to it. One is building insurance in this century, meaning utilizing all the best that technology has to offer in order to build a much more efficient and delightful experience for customers. Insurance can seem daunting and sometimes complicated. So through technology and experience, you're able to really simplify an experience that in the past was really just done through agents, through a digital experience for customers. And then the second part of it is really bringing in a social good element to Lemonade. Lemonade is built as a B Corp, meaning that at the end of the day, any unclaimed funds go to charities that our customers choose as part of the onboarding experience, meaning that we don't fight over the claims money with our customers. At the end of the day, we really want to make sure that we align the interest with our customers so that we're able to bring out the best in them so they only claim what they need, bringing about a much healthier system and a better value proposition for customers.
I want to take you kind of like back to the beginning, the early days of Lemonade, where you had to make the decision to actually become the carrier, right? To become the insurance company, right? And I guess you could have just decided to create the technology for other insurance companies, but you guys decided to kind of become the actual carrier. So what made you make this decision and not to just build technology for those companies?
I think if we zoom out a little bit and just look at insurance in general, insurance has been almost untouched by technology. All the companies that we know today have been around for over a century, really literally from the days of horse and carriage. And insurance companies are some of the most unloved insurance companies in the US, I think second maybe only to TV carriers. I think that's kind of the first category. And I think what we wanted to do was really to go from the ground up and to offer a completely different experience and model. And so really what we said, in order to control the entire experience, we have to build everything from the ground up.
Yeah, actually, we had a similar journey, right? When we started Daisy, I was talking to a lot of real estate, people from the industry, and all of them said, look, just build the software, right? This is what you're good at. And talking to traditional management companies and understanding the industry, I understood that if we are not rebuilding it from the ground up, you won't be able to change the fundamentals, right? There is these fundamentals in industries where they've been operating in the same way for decades, and they say, no, this is the way it's been done. And if you don't control this end-to-end consumer experience, you can't change those fundamentals, right? You find yourself actually serving companies that have been operating in the wrong way.
You're as fast as the slowest part of your stack. And so if your stack is combined out of pieces that are completely associated with a different century and are built on systems that are completely legacy systems, then you won't be able to move at the pace you want. And what we've seen happen with some of our competitors who've chosen that path is that at some point they've either hit a wall where the companies that they've partnered with were refusing to take another leap of faith or break the traditional boundaries that the industry had, or at some point they were just not able to offer the full experience that they wanted to their customers because of regulation and other reasons. They didn't own and control their own fate.
Yeah, and I think it's connected also to the data. One thing that I think for you guys and for us as well, the data is critical, right? If you have a lot of data and it's structured in a very organized way, you are able to be more efficient in how you run processes, but you are able to also provide a better experience for the consumer. So they actually can get things instantly, as opposed to waiting, for a company that needs to jump between 4 different systems to understand what is the response on that.
I think a helpful way that we think about data is often people confuse data velocity versus data texture. So the companies that you're competing with have a lot more data than you do. They just do. The problem is that a lot of that data sits on papers in warehouses, completely unaccessible for them to be able to come in and tag that data and make it useful and learn from it. And so data texture is a lot more important than data velocity. So I think that goes back to the reason of building your own tech stack and being able to control kind of all of those data points and make those connections, right? Our brain has many different nodes, right? But really creates our smartness and our intelligence is the connectivity between those nodes. So just having those nodes of data is completely useless unless you're able to make those connections and create intelligence.
And one of the things we're seeing every month when we're signing more and more buildings, we get boxes of paper to our office and we need to go through
That must be
paper. Well, our team members actually put masks because there is a lot of dust on it that's been there for 25 years.
I'm sure a lot of people are using that, those papers. Yeah, that's the problem. It's not accessible. We talk a lot about technology. We talk about being more efficient. At the end of the day, really our job is to pay claims. And your job is to make sure that people's homes, are operating and they have everything they need to live comfortably. But if you do that in a way that creates better efficiencies and better experiences, you're actually able to reduce costs without sacrificing the experience. On the opposite, enhancing the customer experience. Yeah.
And what we're seeing now running buildings and running all their insurance is we're seeing this industry and the costs rising tremendously. We saw in some of our policies increase of 30% for our buildings. How do you see this industry? What's affecting that increase in premiums, and how do you see it evolving in the future?
The insurance industry has been through a really rough a few years. So it was the kind of the perfect storm, pun intended, of a lot of catastrophic events that have hit the U.S. at a much higher frequency than expected, in combination of inflation. And the way insurance rates work is that everything needs to get approved by regulation. So as opposed to changing prices of different commodities where a certain retailer can just decide to up the price, the way it works is insurance companies need to basically go to regulators and say, hey, my cost of filing claims and my cost of paying claims is much higher than the premiums that I'm collecting. And so they need to make their case and prove that to regulators, and then regulators will approve or not approve the rates that you want. And so there's an inherent lag when it comes to insurance as opposed to kind of getting to the true cost. And these things sometimes takes a few years. So we are, I would say, close to the end of the rising, I think, rates of insurance. As you can see in some insurance companies who've completely either pulled out of states. For example, California and Florida, have seen a drop in tons of carriers who have completely pulled out of the state. And you're also seeing a lot of carriers just not marketing, not selling policies, and have been completely quiet when it comes because they've been waiting for their rates to come in. I'm really hoping that we're at the end of that and prices are starting to stabilize. But I definitely think that customers today, need to be smarter about how they buy insurance and not to be afraid to shop around, ask questions, make sure they have the best coverage for exactly what they need, and be smarter in terms of how they customize their insurance policies. So short answer is I think we're towards the end, and hopefully we're towards the end of the rate hikes. And the second answer is I think every person should kind of take a look at their policies, not be afraid to make sure that they're customized to their needs, and swap and switch if they're paying too much.
We mentioned the consumer in that sense. What are the things that Lemonade does today in the technology that enables you guys to improve dramatically the experience of consumers in buying insurance?
So I think first and foremost for Lemonade, 90% of our customers have never had insurance before. So we are their first time ever buying insurance. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think, most people, unless forced, did not want to buy renter's insurance, which was kind of our first product that we came out to the market. And the way we've kind of demystified and created a much more delightful experience that is easy to understand we basically enabled a lot of customers that were kind of avoiding this product altogether to empower them and say, hey, I understand this now. I get hundreds of thousands of coverage for liability. I can get coverage for all of my stuff, even if they're stolen or, I lose them when I'm abroad. And if my apartment, God forbid, like goes up in flames, I'm going to get coverage for all the things that I bought. And that's not going to set me back financially. And I can do all of that at the price it costs me to get a cappuccino that I pay for once a month with my, boutique coffee store. So I think technology and focusing on customers, you can really create a much better educational offering for customers and get them on board. And I think the second thing we've done is that we've created an experience. We've invested a lot in making sure that customers can change and customize the policy itself and the coverage on the go in a language that is not trying to make them feel stupid. Sorry for, kind of dumbing it down to that level. But I think oftentimes when you try to read, if you ever try to read a policy, I'm an insurance agent and I sometimes get confused from all the different coverages, and it's definitely been written by lawyers and it's very hard to understand. So I think the brilliance is how do you take the essence of that and you create a very, very, very simplified language so that every person can have the power to buy the policy, understand what they're buying, and change coverage that is right for them. So we allow customers to change, cancel, do whatever they want in the policies after they bought it, before they bought it. It's totally interchangeable.
Yeah, I think we saw it as well with our service, that when you simplify things, when you give the information in a very easy way for people to digest, it's much easier for them to make a decision.
100%.
In our case, board members, they need to make a lot of decisions on behalf of the owners of the building. And by incorporating our dashboard and having everything in front of them and providing all the context and comparables to other buildings, we enable them to make those decisions much easier.
So I think it's always and you're probably facing a similar, tension, which is on one hand, you want to cover yourself, right? That's been like the approach of the insurance. The reason why policies are so complicated is because this thing happened and that thing happened, and this person decided that it's a smart idea to put their dog on the rooftop, and all these different things that happen, but they're anecdotal. But you want to cover every single instance that might happen to the point where a normal person can't understand what they're buying. So, and the trade-off of it is a lot of people just ended up not buying insurance and are going around uncovered. That's not good for society. That doesn't make us better. Board members not making decisions for their residents and just stalling on decisions does not make the building being managed better. So I think you need to have, and again, this goes back to owning your stack, right? Being a full stack carrier, being a full stack management company, you can say, I'm going to take that risk of not covering the dog or paying for someone who decided to put their dog on the rooftop. But I'm taking that risk because it's better for me that, millions of people will actually buy coverage because that's better.
Yeah, we see it as well in being proactive. I think that one of the things I saw a lot in this industry, that management companies like to sit on the fence. They're like, we update you guys and now it's on you, and then things like the collapse of a building in Miami happens, right? You need to be proactive. You need to come with actual suggestion. You need to push, and it's your job, on our job, to actually push the board to make the right decisions and to put the decisions into play.
I would say it actually goes to what is the DNA of your company. Are you a consumer-centric company or are you not? And are you thinking about things from the consumer's perspective or are you thinking about things from the business and coverage perspective? And I would argue, at least in insurance, and I would assume this is probably similar in your industry as well, is that the industry was built through the lens of the agents, of the broker, of the distribution. And not a lot of people were saying, okay, how would that feel like if I am the customer and I need to go through that flow and I need to file a claim, and now I need to explain to 4 different people what happened to me, and one person doesn't know it and the other person doesn't know it, and I need to go through that process over and over again. But from their perspective is like, if you don't tell me from the beginning, then I might miss something, and then, whatever. So I think it's really, what's your viewpoint? And if you decide that as a company, your viewpoint is always around the board member and the resident, then that would lead you down a very different path of decision-making.
Yeah, and it goes back to being a full stack. You're actually able to redefine it because you think and look at the entire experience end to end. So let's say I'm an owner or a renter and that needs to buy insurance.
That-
We actually see, I'll say in an anecdote, we're seeing more and more lemonade policies because we collect all the policies in all our building. We actually see many more
We're
lemonade
taking
insurance.
more and more market share. That's happening.
That's really exciting. Let's say I'm an owner, I'm a renter, living in New York. What are the things that I should pay attention to when buying insurance, and what would you recommend me to look at?
I would say common mistakes. I think the first one I kind of mentioned before, but is around the deductible. I think often people confuse insurance for, this, they think about it as something that they should be using all the time. And I think insurance should be thought of as something that, should cover the things that if you are forced to pay for them would really put you back financially in life. And so they shouldn't cover that $500 or $1,000 mistake. They can, but that's not really why you need insurance. You need insurance for when you need to pay $20,000 out of pocket, when you need to, pay for your entire condo, $1 million. And that's really gonna, put you back in life in terms of your economical viability. So I think, and where you can really impact that is, as I said before, through the deductible. Because if you up your deductible, meaning how much you're participating in the claim, then you're able to lower your insurance costs dramatically. But then you're really gonna use the insurance for when you really
So I
need
actually
it.
want to increase the deductible.
100%. I think that's what insurance is for. And people also don't understand that once you use your insurance a few times, then you get an insurance penalty, and maybe other insurance carriers won't, insure you. This is like all the small fund that people sometimes miss when it comes to insurance. The second thing, and this is true for New York, and I know you guys are in New York, so I'll make it specific. One of them is the water sewer backup. This is a common add-on that a lot of people just don't add, and I think is very, very important. As we've seen here in Sandy and other places, it was like the haves and have-nots. So the one that had the water sewer backup, really got coverage for everything they needed, and the ones that didn't, got all their claims denied, which was really just disheartening. And is a shame. And last but not least, because you are in condos, right? I think one of the things that people miss sometimes is that you have your condominium owner policy, HO6, and then you have the buildings policy, which is a commercial policy. And the buildings policy is worthwhile to note to understand exactly what's the coverage there. There's something called plasters in or plasters out. So if your policy is plastered out, it basically means that the building doesn't care about anything that happens to your apartment. It's just everything that has to do from the outside of the walls of your apartments out. But there are a lot of buildings in New York that actually do plasters in, which means all the fixtures of your apartment, the kitchen, other things are also covered by the building. So that's a great opportunity for you as a condo owner to actually save and remove the overall coverage that you're taking on as well. And I think most people just are not aware of that differentiation.
Great, amazing. And looking ahead now with generative AI, I know you guys have been AI company for even before that, but how do you see this changing dramatically Lemonade and the service you provide and the industry you operate in?
I think in general, the aliens have landed. And I think anyone who is not aware of the dramatic shift that is currently happening is just completely missing the ball. So everything that we do today is going to be completely disrupted by these new technologies that are coming in, and it's going to touch every single point of our business, right? So anything from code writing and building products, right? That's completely changing, all the way to servicing. And what's really remarkable about it is the pace, right? So it's just every few weeks there's like another breakthrough, like something. I'll give an example. So when you buy a home, you get an inspection report, basically tells you everything that is right and wrong about your house. It could be a 50 to a 70 page, riveting, fascinating document. But what we would have done is we would have had an underwriting reviewer read through the entire report, correlate that to our underwriting guidelines that we have in the specific state. It's a very cumbersome task. What we do today is we basically use Gen AI to read through the entire report, already correspond with all the underwriting guidelines we have in the state, and then flag to the different underwriters, here are all the things that are a mismatch that would disqualify this customer for basically buying a policy. So we turned a 2-hour process to a 30 seconds process. So that's, I think, one example. But I think in general, it's much, much, much easier to do when you have one system So I think that's one part of it, how your tech stack is built. And can you integrate to these different tools that are coming out? Like, how difficult is it? And then, or how easy is it? And then I think the second thing, which is really interesting that I think a lot of people miss, is the culture of the company. And I found that to be one of the kind of the biggest, misses when it comes to understanding. I think people just say, yeah, I mean, everyone's going to start using Gen AI. Well, I don't know. I think definitely true for companies who, embrace tools and tech tools, and it's something that is part of their DNA and culture. I think it's really, really hard, for me at least, to believe that you will walk around some of the more, established companies and all of a sudden all of their employees are going to start, embracing Canva and ChatGPT and use it in their day-to-day and integrate, with the coding tool. I mean, it's a little bit hard for me to believe that. And I think the combination of how you're built and who's building and the combination of those two things is really, to me, is what's going to indicate who's going to be able to really take advantage of this revolution.
Yeah, I'm always shocked when I'm talking to other people and ask them, so are you using ChatGPT? Yes, it helps me to write things in my email. And I'm like, no, that's what you're using it for? It's like they kind of like completely passed all the new advancement there is, and they kind of like stuck in the, I would say, old days of ChatGPT even, and what you can actually do with this technology. We're using, I mentioned before, the boxes of documents that we get to our office. So once we scan them, then we have actually ChatGPT classify them and pull all the information from them, something that traditional management companies actually having person do and go over all those documents. So yeah, I think it's really, really exciting to see how this technology is changing completely our industries. And as you said, like when you build it on top of technology, it's much easier for you to implement it and to make those changes. So I completely agree. Cool. Anything else you want to share with us and you think that is exciting? I think maybe on the fact that we are siblings. And how we both found ourselves in these very antiquated industries and disrupting those industries, and maybe what our parents did when we were young to lead us to that point.
That's maybe we should ask them. I don't know how we found ourselves here. I definitely think that, and this maybe has something to do with how you educate and grow kids. And, I think there's something to be said about, allowing kids to push against the status quo and challenge, things that they don't feel comfortable with, as opposed to, I think there's two approaches, right? Like you can guide people more to the fact of like, this is just the way things work and figure out your way within it, versus why don't you try something else, which sometimes creates a lot more energy and you need to kind of, get out of your comfort zone to help your kids, embrace that. But I definitely think that we grew up in an environment that definitely challenged us and taught us not to just accept things as is and push back if we think things are not right, whether that mean offering different ideas or raising our voice and trying to do things differently. So yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think our parents really enabled us to do things that are outside of our comfort zone. But I also think that looking up at them and their resilience and what they went through life, and us learning from that without them even teaching us that, as well as being very competitive. I think our family in general is very, very competitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think this pushed us a lot.
For sure. Growing up with 3 older brothers was not a piece of cake, for sure, for me.
Yeah, I think it helped you. So
it's debatable.
Great. So thank you very much for coming. It was amazing, as I anticipated. And you're coming to dinner tonight, right?
Yes, for sure.